A couple of things I want to address. I did enjoy the 75th anniversary weekend for the NBA. People do often romanticize the past in the NBA. I think the league has never been more skilled than it is now. You're not allowed to have two people on the floor that can't shoot. Sometimes having one that can't shoot is a liability. But there was a couple of things back in the 80s and 90s that did help competition. Number one, there wasn't as much money, and players were really fighting for a piece of the pie. Everybody's rich now. That creates some day-to-day apathy, right? There's no question when Michael was beating Isaiah or a Karl Malone or a Barkley, you were fighting for a smaller piece of the revenue pie, so the intensity was palpable. The second thing is the league was much more physical. They allowed hand checking and putting forearms on people. Well, what does that do? Well, it creates animosity. It's one thing now to beat you 127 to 120. It's another thing to beat you 88 to 80 when I've bloodied your nose and pushed you around for 3 hours. Physical sports, UFC, NFL, hockey, create more animosity. And animosity is good. It creates occasional skirmishes. You want to avoid a malice in the palace. You want to avoid the Juwan Howard situation over the weekend. But that is the one thing I will say about the NBA. Less money, more guys fighting for their share of the pie, and the physicality created real animosity. Guys hated each other because they were often tackling each other on a basketball hard floor. There's something going on in my industry, and this podcast is really perfect for me to explain it or let you kind of behind the curtain. There's something going on called the Netflix effect. So we all have favorite sports. I'm more of a football guy than a baseball guy. But I've been to spring training a half dozen times. It's awesome. I do love October baseball, especially when you get the big name teams. That Cubs World Series, Yankees, Red Sox, Dodgers, Giants. It's fun. And I grew up like a lot of you in the 70s. It was my favorite sport. But, time has changed. Football's got more activity, better on television. Blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. But when anybody says, these NBA ratings are down, here's the important distinction. Hockey, baseball, MLS, NBA ratings are all down over the last 5 years, Monday through Friday, and it's called the Netflix effect. Networks and leagues put their best games on Saturday and Sunday, right? Here's where the ratings aren't going down. NFL, major college football games on Saturday, UFC fights on the weekend. Anything that's big and heavily promoted, NASCAR, WNBA, anything that is heavily promoted and put on the weekends is doing just fine. What the American viewer has been doing over the last 5 years is tuning out Monday through Friday leagues for Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime, streaming services. But sports on the weekends, when it's heavily promoted and it features the biggest brands and the biggest star quarterbacks, that still does exceedingly well. So when people, pick on the NBA, the ratings actually are up from last year, I think about 6%. You're telling on yourself. You don't like the NBA, and that's okay. I'm an NFL guy, a college football guy, an NBA guy. I like my UFC fights. I love the World Cup. I still really do like the baseball playoffs if the right teams are in. But, if somebody picks on any league, the weekend stuff is still crushing in sports. In fact, it's about the only thing we watch on television today, on broadcast TV and cable. News, politics, and sports, if it's live. So I put this story third because I don't want to feel desperate. I do have to talk about the Aaron Rodgers Instagram rambling. Listen, after the Super Bowl, there's about a 3-week period before we get to NFL free agency. It is a very dry period. Now, the Super Bowl used to be the first week of February. Now it's the second, which actually shaves a week of despair off for talk show hosts, radio or TV. But there's no question if Aaron Rodgers dropped this in the middle of the regular season on a Monday or a Tuesday, it wouldn't get nearly as much play as it does now. We need content. But I do think it's interesting with Aaron. Aaron increasingly, to me, has become high IQ, low EQ guy, emotional quotient. Never married, no kids, short relationships, nearing 40. Bill Simmons and I had talked about this. You get a little weird. It's a little Bill Maher, it's a little Keith Olbermann. Never married, no kids, not sure if you have pets, not necessarily steady relationships. You kind of do what you want to do. I mean, Aaron Rodgers goes for a 12-day cleanse. If I called my wife and say, hey, I'm going to leave the kids and all the animals in the house to you for 12 days. I'm going to go cleanse. Yeah, she'd say, go cleanse at your nearest attorney's office. It's a different life for Aaron Rodgers than a Brady or a Peyton Manning. And when I read that IG post, I kind of laughed. I thought it almost read like something from The Onion. The idea of Peyton Manning or Drew Brees or Tom Brady with big families dropping that, the 12-day cleanse, it's really hard to relate to. And I've always taken incredible pride at both ESPN and Fox and at iHeartRadio to be self-contained as a host. I don't need management. I really don't. I couldn't tell you the last time I met with Fox management. I told them when I came over, I said, I don't really need a boss. If you're mad at me once a year, come yell at me. But the show, I know how to do a show. I've been doing it for 20 years. And I take great pride in that. And because of that, I have very little patience for high-maintenance people. When I look at Aaron Rodgers and this constant drama and this need to publicize things and manipulate things, I just think he would wear me out. I think as a coach, he would wear me out. I think as a general manager, he could wear me out. And that's why I don't necessarily feel the way that many do about Aaron. I would not give up 5 first-round picks for Aaron Rodgers. There is no proof that Aaron Rodgers plays his best football in the postseason. There is no proof. There's proof Brady does. There's proof Matt Stafford in fourth quarters plays his best football. But there is no proof in the playoffs, even at home, as a favorite, that Aaron Rodgers plays his best football in those games. I would actually, because I do think Russell Wilson adds a leadership dimension and a mobility dimension that Aaron doesn't offer, I would give up more for Russell Wilson. I also think he's closer to his prime. I think he's still in it. So I kind of look at the Aaron Rodgers IG, and I think you just have to bake in a lot of things. We talk about Tom Brady's age. How much would you give up for Tom Brady? A first-round pick? I probably wouldn't give up much more due to his age. Because of his recklessness, how much would you give up for Carson Wentz? Now, we know you'd give up almost everything for Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, or Patrick Mahomes. But I look at right now with Aaron Rodgers, between the drama and the maintenance and his postseason struggles, I don't think he's a 4, 5, 6 first, second round pick guy anymore. I think if I was Denver, I would really like to have him, and I'd give up a couple of number ones, but that's about it. I think there are some emotional quotient issues with Aaron that he can be very taxing on his staff, very taxing on the front office, and I think you have to bake that in. I mean, listen, if we're going to discount Jimmy Garoppolo, who's been to more Super Bowls than Aaron Rodgers has in the last 3 years, if we're going to discount him because of injuries, or Wentz because of recklessness, despite having 27 TDs and 7 picks with a bad receiving core, I think you have to take some points off Aaron's value based on this constant drama, walking on eggshells, and neediness that is really part of a nearly 40-year-old guy who remains single. Hi, everybody. It's Colin Cowherd, your affable host. I don't ask for much, really. That little box over there, subscribe box, push that. Subscribe to the YouTube page of The Volume Sports. Now, there will be a brief electrical shock after you do it. But hey, we're all in this together, right?